हरे कृष्ण। जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन बल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन बल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना। यमुना तीरावन चारी यमुना तीरावन चारी। जयो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपीजन बल्लभ गिरिवर धारी। यशोदानंदन ब्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरावन चारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। जयो राधा कलचंजी राधे। जयो राधा गोविंद राधे। जयो जगन्नाथ जयो बलदेवा जयो सुभद्रा। निताई गौर हरि बोल निताई गौर हरि बोल। Nitai Gaur. Jayo Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Jayo Jayo Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Jayo Jayo Gurudev, 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 Jayo Jayo Gurudev. Jai Gurudev. Jayo Jayo Shri Chaitanya, Jayo Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jayo Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jayo Jayo Shri Chaitanya, Jayo Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jayo Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jayo Jayo Shri Chaitanya, Jayo Nityananda, Jai Advaita Chandra, Jayo Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Ajnanatimidandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Praying at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, our dear most Srila Prabhupada, and all the Guru Vargas, may I speak few words for my very own purification, for the pleasure of the Vaishnavas, and of course for the glorification of our dear most Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuve vacha patitanam pavnevyo vaishnavevyo namo namah. Mukum karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Deenatarinam. Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Paramananda Madhavam. Kathanchana smrite asmin dushkaram sukaram bhaved vishmrite viparitam syat Shri Chaitanya namami tvam. Things that are very difficult to do becomes very easy to execute if one somehow or other simply remembers Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But if one does not remember him, even easy things become very difficult. To this Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I offer my respectful obeisances. I hope it stays. So we are in Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and this is chapter 8. This is talks between the Lord and Ramananda Rai, very exalted, elevated topic. I'm not qualified, still speaking as a service. So we are on text 128. It's a very celebrated, well-known verse, often quoted, very often quoted, and very important for our movement. Why, we will see. But before that, before text 128, we were in, and if you are hearing it after some times, or just to hear the story behind, it's Rai Ramananda and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meeting. And first they met in a public place, and then they wanted to, because this is Vishaka Sakhi, Rai Ramananda and Radharani, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they wanted to meet in a secluded place, so they met in the evening. Excuse me. And then they start talking. And then Mahaprabhu says, please speak about Krishna. And Rai Ramananda starts talking about Varnashram Dharma. And then Mahaprabhu says, this is Bhajya or Bahya, external, speak something higher, deeper. And then it goes on and different rasas, and finally it comes to Radharani, the mood of Radharani, Radhakund, etc. And then Ramananda says at text 123 that he started glorifying Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that you were the supreme, and previous verses also, that you were the supreme, and I'm speaking because you are making me speak. I have no qualification, I don't understand anything, but I am doing so because you are making me do it. And from text 124 to 27, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu glorifies Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who was a Mayavadi, but he said, you know what, I am a Mayavadi sannyas. We know he took Mayavadi sannyas. Mahaprabhu, he made me a devotee, but it was not that. And we have seen in chapter 6, where Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was completely transformed into a devotee, a Vaishnava, from a Mayavadi philosopher, a Jnani to a Bhakta. But Mahaprabhu says, gives the credit to Chaitanya Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, saying that he is the one who made me devotee. And then he says that he sent me here, knowing your glory. So you are you are very glorious, and that's why I'm here. And then he starts speaking this verse. This is 128. 128. Madhya? Yeah. 8. Chapter 8. Madhya 8, 128. Get it? Okay. Kiba vipro kiba nashi shudra kene noy, Jai Krishna Tattva Beta Shei Guru Hoy. You want to chant? Go ahead. Jai Krishna Tattva Beta Shei Guru Hoy. Vipra kiva nashi shudra kene noy, Jai Krishna Tattva Beta Shei Guru Hoy. Kiva vipra kiva nashi shudra kene noy, Jai Krishna Tattva Beta Shei Guru Hoy. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki. So this is comparatively longer purport. We will read that and try to understand. Of course, I'll be mostly reading through, so this is more like a reading session than class. Translation. Whether one is a Brahmana, a sannyasi, or a Shudra, regardless of what he is, he can become a spiritual master if he knows the science of Krishna. So, purport. This verse is very important to the Krishna consciousness movement. In his Amrita Prabha Bhashya, Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur explains that one should not think that because Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born a Brahmana and was situated in the topmost spiritual order as a sannyasi, it was improper for him to receive instructions from Srila Ramananda Rai, who belonged to the Shudra caste. To clarify this matter, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu informed Ramananda Rai that knowledge of Krishna consciousness is more important than caste. In the system of Varnashrama Dharma, there are various duties for the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudras. Actually, the Brahmana is supposed to be the spiritual master of all other Varnas or classes, but as far as Krishna consciousness is concerned, everyone is capable of becoming a spiritual master because knowledge in Krishna consciousness is on the platform of the spirit soul. So basically, Prabhupada is writing, it's a very, very beautiful purport actually, if we can follow through. In the beginning, Prabhupada will establish where is Brahmana, where is a Vaishnava, and eventually he will little bit turn the table and tell that how a Vaishnava should be a wonderful Brahmana. So it's a very nice, and like Prabhupada is very eloquent in his words, in his purport. Like he can say in such few words, we hear this in his lecture, half an hour lecture, like I take hours to speak something and still the message is not conveyed. Prabhupada will say just few things and everything is done. The Krishna consciousness, it's like a capsule he gives, like the bhajans. So basically, it's right. What's written here is that there are two dharmas, right? So we have Varnashram dharma, which in the beginning of the chapter, Mahaprabhu says is external. And we have Krishna consciousness, or we also may know it as dharma and parodharma. And Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.6, that verse is there, that savai pumsam parodharma, yato bhaktir adokshaje, right? So dharma is there, that is dharma is temporary. Like today you are a man, so you have a man dharma. I am a woman, I have a women dharma. If I am a grihastha, I have a grihastha dharma. If I am a Brahman, I have a Brahmana dharma, right? All this caste and... But whatever form I am in, I have a dharma and I am doing. But when I die, if I become a man, I'll have a man dharma. And again, I become a cockroach, I'll have a cockroach dharma, right? So my dharma is changing. That's why it is temporary. But my parodharma, that is eternal, that is sanatan, will never change. And that is Jiver Swarup Hoy, Krishna Nityadas. We are forever and ever and ever and eternally. We are the servant of Krishna. And that dharma, whether we are a roach, whether we are a human being, a donkey or a cow or whatever we are, we forever and ever remain the servant of the Lord. And that dharma never changes. And that's the paro dharma. And every dharma we do is for samsiddhir haritoshanam, for the pleasure of the Lord. And that's what Prabhupada will explain further, that our dharma is also to reach the paro dharma, to reach where we are supposed to go back to Godhead, but act in a way that pleases the Lord. Continuing. To spread Krishna consciousness, one need only be cognizant of the science of the spirit soul. It does not matter whether one is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Sannyasi, Grihastha or whatever. If one simply understands this science, he can become a spiritual master. It is stated in the Hari Bhakti Vilas that one should not accept initiation from a person who is not in the Brahminical order if there is a fit person in the Brahminical order present. This instruction is meant for those who are overly dependent on the mundane social order and is suitable for those who want to remain in mundane life. So basically, Prabhupada is writing that, of course, Hari Bhakti Vilas says that a Brahmana should be the spiritual master if he is there, right? But Prabhupada is also saying those who are totally dependent, basically karmakandis, if we're totally dependent on those, and then we have to follow. And then he will say what is parodharma. If one understands the truth of Krishna consciousness and seriously desires to attain transcendental knowledge for the perfection of life, he can accept a spiritual master from any social status, provided the spiritual master is fully conversant with the science of Krishna. Brahmana is good, but if you have somebody who understands Krishna consciousness completely, he is even better. So he is telling that better than a Brahmana is a Vaishnava, a pure Vaishnava. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur also states that although one is situated as a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmachari, Banaprastha, Grihastha or Sannyasi, if he is conversant in the science of Krishna, he can become a spiritual master as Bhartama Pradarshaka Guru, Diksha Guru or Shiksha Guru. The spiritual master who first gives the information about the spiritual life is called the Vartama Pradarshaka Guru. The spiritual master who initiates according to the regulations of Shastras is called the Diksha Guru. And the spiritual master who gives instruction for elevation is called the Shiksha Guru. Factually, the qualification of a spiritual master depends on his knowledge of the science of Krishna. It doesn't matter whether he is a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Sannyasi or Shudra. This injunction given by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not at all against the injunction of the Shastras. In Padma Puran it is said, Na Shudra Bhagavata Bhaktaste api Bhagavata Uttama Sarvavarneshu te Shudra Yena Bhakta Janardane. One who is actually advanced in spiritual knowledge of Krishna is never a Shudra, even though he may have have been born in a Shudra family. However, even a Bipra or Brahmana is very expert in the 6 Brahminical activities: Patana, Yajana, Dana, and Pratigraha, and is also well versed in the Vedic hymns. He cannot become a spiritual master unless he is a Vaishnava. So he is still talking about, even if you are a Brahmana, you have to be a Vaishnava to become an authentic spiritual master. But if one is born in the family of Chandala, yet is well versed in Krishna consciousness, he can become a guru. These are the Shastric injunctions, and strictly following these injunctions, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as a Grihastha, named Sri Vishamvara, was initiated by a sannyasi guru named Ishwara Puri. Similarly, Sri Nityananda Prabhu was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, a sannyasi. According to others, however, he was initiated by Lakshmipati Tirtha. Advaita Acharya, although a Grihastha, was initiated by Madhavendra Puri, and Sri Rasikananda, although born in a Brahminical family, was initiated by Shamananda Prabhu, who was not born in a caste Brahmana family. So Rasikananda was a disciple of Shamananda Prabhu, who was also known as Dukhi Krishnadas. If you go to Vrindavan, you will see his place where he found Srimati Radharani's Nupur, the ankle bell. And then he was initiated into the name of Shamananda Pandit, Shamananda Prabhu. If you go to Shakshi Gopal, no. If you go to Remuna, Khirchur Gopinath, you will see there are 3 deities. We have always heard about the deities of Khirchur Gopinath, but apart from that, there are 2 deities of Radha and Krishna. You will see Rasikananda's deities one side, and other side is Shamananda Prabhu's, and their samadhi is also there. So we know Gauridas Pandit was the spiritual master of Hriday Chaitanya. Hriday Chaitanya was the spiritual master of Shamananda Pandit or Dukhi Krishnadas, and he was the spiritual master of Rasikananda. So that's the little background about Rasikananda Prabhu. And what Prabhupada is trying to explain or is explaining is that how different backgrounds, spiritual master, different background disciples, doesn't matter. Prabhupada says is the master is potent and the disciple is potent, Krishna consciousness immediately happens. As a husband and wife, if they're potent, the child comes. Similarly, if the master, the spiritual master, and the disciple is potent, are potent, the Krishna consciousness immediately happens. Okay. There are many instances in which a born Brahmana took initiation from a person who was not born in a Brahmana family. The Brahminical symptoms are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:11-35, wherein it is stated, yasyaya lakshanam proktam pumso varnabhi vyanjakam yad anyatrapi drishyeta tattanaiva vinirdishet. If a person is born in a Shudra family but has all the qualities of a spiritual master, he should be accepted not only as a Brahmana but as a qualified spiritual master also. This is also the instruction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur therefore introduced the sacred thread ceremony for all Vaishnavas according to the rules and regulations. Sometimes a Vaishnava who is a Bhajananandi does not take the Savitra Samskara, sacred thread initiation, but this does not mean that the system should be used for preaching work. So we see Gaur Kishore Das Babaji and Jagannath Das Babaji, right? They are Bhajananandis. They are not Goshanandis. They don't go and preach. They sit in one place and they do their bhajan. Now the thing is, we may say, I was hearing a class that, this Bhajananandi or Goshtanandi, we cannot decide what we are. Our spiritual master has to tell us. Sometimes it's easy to not do services and just sit in one place and chant, even if the mind is hovering. We become pretender. That's what Krishna says, that we become pretenders, right? Because our mind is not exactly absorbed, but we are still doing it because we don't want to do service. It's easier sitting and chanting. Not exactly easy, but being absorbed in chanting is not easy. But it's easier to then, talk to so many devotees, come across and get rubbed off by so many devotees, the egos are clashing. It's easy, sit in one place. But whether you can do it or not, whether you have the adhikar or not, our spiritual master decides. And we hear this instance where somebody was chanting for so long in the ashram of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and the other devotees, they will go, his disciples will go and complain that, this disciple, he is just sitting, he is not doing anything, Guru Maharaj. And he said, put a board that we will sponsor, eating to honoring prasadam to everything. If somebody can really do that. We see so many cases where somebody came to Prabhupada and then, he was into the movement, he starts chanting 64 rounds and then goes on and on and on. And eventually he leaves even 16 rounds. So whether we are actually qualified or not, it has to be decided by our Gurudev. And this is a rare rare instance where I have heard it from an old recorded tape of my Guru Maharaj, where Maharaj was mentioning, actually Prabhupada gave initiation of Babaji initiation to only one disciple of his, where he said now, because Prabhupada believed and predicted that that particular disciple will be leaving his body. And again, just because he was leaving his body, it doesn't mean that he is qualified to become a Babaji. But Prabhupada felt the necessity to instruct him into Babaji, mood. And he said, you go to Vrindavan, practice and leave your body that way. So it's not that Prabhupada didn't know who is, it's our adhikar. If we are a karma yogi and we try to be a bhajananandi, it's a clash. We will not become successful in it. And we see this in karma yoga, where Krishna is explaining so many things about doing our duties. And Arjuna is saying, I'd rather become a sannyasi or become a beggar in the forest and go and sit there and not have to do this fight. This is too complicated, it's too difficult. Like our services sometimes are too difficult to be with devotees. But in text, if I'm quoting it right, it's 18 and 19 or 17 and 18 somewhere. Krishna says, but Arjuna, a sannyasi is one who not sannyasi, a person, who reached the ultimate goal, who is self-realized, he is happy in himself. But what was Arjuna saying in his 6th reasoning? He was saying, if all my relatives die, whom will I share my happiness with? Atma Rama will not speak that. That Atma Rama, of course, Arjuna was doing it on behalf of us so that we get the knowledge, but just to speak in the context of Bhagavad Gita. And Arjuna was told by Krishna that, but you are not that. You are not that self-realized who can rejoice in yourself, so you have to do your duty. And 8.7 he said, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam yuddhacha, mam anushmara yuddhacha. Yeah. So 8.7 he says that fight, but remembering me. Mai arpita mano buddhir, give your everything is into your intelligence, your mind, everything to me. And you'll come back to me. And of that have no doubt about it. So that's what, whether we become Bhajananandi or we become a Goshtanandi, it's our Guru, like for Krishna and for that disciple, our Guru has to tell what we are. We cannot decide ourselves. We cannot speculate, oh, I do so nice, bhajan. I should be a Bhajananandi and not go into preaching. I remember, I did not hear him completely, but Vijay Prabhu was mentioning how preaching is must for us. And there's no alternative because we are in this movement. So what Prabhupada is writing, that a thread ceremony is not necessary. Savitri Samskara is not absolute for everybody, but we should not take it for granted also. But this does not mean that the system should be used for preaching work. There are two kinds of Vaishnavas, Bhajananandi and Goshtanandi. And a Bhajananandi is not interested in preaching work, but a Goshtanandi is interested in spreading Krishna consciousness to benefit the people and increase the number of Vaishnavas. A Vaishnava is understood to be above the position of a Brahmana. As a preacher, he should be recognized as a Brahmana. Otherwise, there may be a misunderstanding of his position as a Vaishnava. So, even if we are a preacher and we have to behave in a certain way is what I understand from what Prabhupada is trying, that even if you are a Vaishnava, you have to be a perfect Brahmana also. Unfortunately, did I miss? Okay, no. As a preacher, he should be recognized as a Brahmana, otherwise there may be a misunderstanding of his position as a Vaishnava. However, a Vaishnava Brahmana is not selected on the basis of his birth, but according to his qualities. Unfortunately, those who are unintelligent do not know the difference between a Brahmana and a Vaishnava. They are under the impression that unless one is a Brahmana, he cannot be a spiritual master. For this reason only, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu makes the statement in this verse, Kiva Vipro Kiva Nyashi Shudra Kene Noy Jai Krishna Tattva Vetvasi Guru Hoy. Before this, what I'm understanding from the purport Prabhupada is saying, one side we become Sahajiya, that I'm a Vaishnava, I don't need to follow any rules and regulation. And if you go to Calcutta, Bengal, if you go to Orissa, you will feel it all over. It's all over there. It's very hard to recognize a Vaishnava who is following rules and regulation. Again, in Remuna we were in Khirchur Gopinath, and everybody were having tilak, kanti. They were also singing and doing things. And I've mentioned it before, an end of when everybody sat down. And I was just thinking, are they from ISKCON? I was just thinking, are they from ISKCON? Because you can't tell. It's a sari, it's a kanti, it's tilak. How do you know? And then they say, they were speaking in Bengali, right? So they say, it's like, let's go have tea. And I was like, okay, not ISKCON. So the line is very thin. The line is very thin between them and us, at least appearance-wise. Philosophy, of course, you don't get to hear all the time. But appearance is very difficult. So, and that is that side. And there is one more side where you become karmakandi, right? So like you believe only a Brahmana can become a spiritual master. Or you become only a Vaishnava. Forget about being a Brahmana, can become a spiritual master. Neither is recommended here. If one becomes a guru, he is automatically a Brahmana. Sometimes a caste guru says that Jai Krishna Tattva Vetva, Shei Guru Hoy, means that one who is not a Brahmana may become a Shiksha Guru or a Bhartama Pradarshaka Guru, but not an initiator Guru. According to such caste gurus, birth and family ties are considered foremost. However, the hereditary consideration is not acceptable to Vaishnavas. The word Guru is equally applicable to the Vartama Pradakshaka Guru, Shiksha Guru, and Diksha Guru. Unless we accept the principles enunciated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this Krishna consciousness movement cannot spread all over the world. According to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's intentions, Prithivite ache joto nagor adi gram, sarbotre prachar hoibe mora naam. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult must be preached all over the world. This does not mean that people should take to his teachings and remain Shudras or Chandala. So you may have become a Vaishnava, but we have more to do. So you just cannot say I'm a Vaishnava and I don't have to do anything else. I have reached the perfection. No. As soon as one is trained as a pure Vaishnava, he must be accepted as a bona fide Brahmana. This is the essence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction in this verse. So you have to be both a Vaishnava and a Brahmana. You cannot let go one for the other. Next verse. 129. সন্ন্যাসী বলিয়া মোরে না করিহ বঞ্চন কৃষ্ণ রাধা তত্ত্ব কহি পূর্ণ করো মন. Mahaprabhu is saying, don't consider me just as a sannyasi. Because we see Mayavadi sannyasis, they're very dry. They're more into philosophy, right? Big things, big philosophy, soul, body, sankhya, etc. But Mahaprabhu is saying that you think I'm a sannyasi and don't, bereft me from this rasa of Radha and Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's translation. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu continued, please do not try to cheat me, thinking of me as a learned sannyasi. Please satisfy my mind by just describing the truth of Radha and Krishna. So you see, Sahajiyas, they get into the mood very quickly without the philosophy, right? So they want to wear sari, they want to wear whatever, and look like a peacock, look like a cow, or whatever they want to look like, and they don't want to go through this, this purificatory system. And they just want to be sentimental. Ultimately, we also have to be sentimental and emotional and everything, but with knowledge. We take the knowledge so that we can become actually emotional and not superficially emotional. That's your mic. Anyway, so this is the pain of Monday speakers. Anyway, so it will just fall on me. Okay. It's all okay. Okay. So Mahaprabhu is saying that, don't, because I'm a sannyasi, but don't go by my dress. Please speak about Krishna Katha, the ras. Jodapi rai premi mahabhagavate taro mana Krishna maya nare achadite tothapi prabhura icha paramo prabal jani leho raira mano hoilo tolomal. Translation. Sri Ramananda Rai was a great devotee of the Lord and a lover of God, and although his mind could not be covered by Krishna's illusory energy, that's Maya, although he could understand the mind of the Lord, which was very strong and intense, Ramananda's mind became a little agitated. Purport. The perfect devotee always acts according to the desire of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but a materialistic man is carried away by the waves of the material energy. If you read Canto 3, chapter 29, I believe, where you must be reading it, you have read it already, where Mother Devahati was being told about the bhakti in different modes. Bhakti in ignorance, passion, goodness, and finally bhakti, real pure bhakti, right? And in that, Prabhupada is saying about nirvana. Nirvana is basically a Mayavad concept where you become one with the ekatva, one with the Lord. You let go your spiritual individuality or any individuality of yours and you become one with Lord's personality. Prabhupada said we also supposed to be into nirvana, but where our desire, in that purport, in one of those purport, he says where our desire becomes one with the Lord's desire. We do not desire anything apart from Krishna's desire. And that's oneness. That's a devotee's oneness. That's our nirvana. And that's what Prabhupada is also writing here. The perfect devotee always act according to the desires of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But a materialistic man is carried away by the waves of the material energy. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has said, Mayar bhashe jaccho bheshe khacho habudabu bhai. A person under the grip of the material energy is carried away by the waves of that illusory energy. In other words, a person in the material world is a servant of Maya. However, a person in the spiritual energy is a servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Ramananda Rai knew that nothing was unknown to the unknown to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he nonetheless began to speak further on the subject because the Lord desired it. So he knew that, of course, Krishna knows everything. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knows everything. But he still spoke for the pleasure of the Lord. Okay. Rai kohe ami noto tumi sutrodhar shei mote nachao teiche chahi nachikar. Sri Ramananda Rai said, I'm just a dancing puppet, and you pull the string. Whichever way you make me dance, I will dance. You would have heard this Markine Bhagavad Dharma composed by our dear Srila Prabhupada. And there, towards the end, Prabhupada says that, Aniyacho jodi Prabhu amake nachate, nachao nachao Prabhu, nachao shemote, kashtero putali jatha, nachao shemote, nachao nachao Prabhu, nachao shemote. Prabhupada was so confused what he will do, right? I mean, exactly not confused. He was confused like Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita. But he was singing, he was chanting, reciting he was praying to, pleading to Krishna that you have brought me here. Which is this place? It is full of tamoguna and rajoguna. And what will they understand? What will I speak? But if you have brought me here, make me dance as you want me to dance. And that's what Rai Ramananda is saying. I am a puppet in your hand. And all of us are, whether we understand it or we not. Whether we are speaking, whether we are singing, whether we are doing, whatever we are doing, cooking, dressing, whatever we are doing, we are puppet in his hand. And he is making us do and we are doing it. We are just being instrument. We are basically instruments in our Guru Maharaj's hand. Moving ahead, 133. Mora jibha bina jantro tumi bina dhari, tomar mone je uthe tahai uchari. My dear Lord, my tongue is just like a stringed instrument, and that is Veena. And you are its player, Veena Dhari. Therefore, I simply vibrate whatever arises in your mind. So I'm just vibrating whatever you are thinking, right? Or whatever is in your mind. Paramo Ishwaro Krishna Swayam Bhagavan Sarva Avatari Sarva Karono Pradhan. Ramananda Rai then began to speak on Krishna Tattva. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He said, He is personally the original Godhead, the source of all incarnations and the cause of all causes. Ananto Vaikuntaro, Ananto Avatar, Ananto Brahmando Iha, Shabaro Adhar. There are innumerable Vaikuntha planets as well as innumerable incarnations. In the material world also, there are innumerable universes, and Krishna is the supreme resting place for all of them. Sachidanando tumi tanu brajendra nandan sarvasya sarvasarjo sarvashakti sarvarasa purna. The transcendental body of Sri Krishna is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. He is the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is full of all opulences and potencies as well as all spiritual mellows. And then 137, the last one for today. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Adir Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam. Translation: Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the supreme controller. He has an eternal blissful spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. This verse is from Brahma Samhita 5.1. And now my favorite verse to end. Please chant with me. This is Antya 12.1. Shruyatam shruyatam nityam giyatam giyatam mudha chintatam chintatam bhaktas chaitanya charitamrita. O devotees, may the transcendental life and characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always be heard, chanted, and meditated upon with great happiness. And as we are approaching Nityananda Trayodashi, please remember Nityananda also along with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu doesn't accept us without Nityananda Prabhu. So All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Chaitanya Charitamrita, all glories to Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhuve Vacha, Patita Nam Pavneve Vaishnaveve Namo Namo Koti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai. Any? Yes. My only qualification is the language.
I was contemplating, like, earlier this week I was faced with like some managerial service that I have to do, and that's really not my nature. And then a friend made a comment of saying like, oh, perhaps your nature is more of like Shudra nature. And I was like, and he was like, it's not a bad thing. It just means that you perform better when you have like qualified leadership. But hearing this, it's saying like, no, we should not be at those levels. We should rise to the level of Brahmana, actually, like as a Vaishnava, but we should have the qualities of a Brahmana. But also, I've heard before that, this is mostly a comment, but I'd like for you to share your thoughts. I've heard before that actually we don't even need to worry about, but Prabhupada is saying we do, but anyways, I was hearing that like we don't really need to worry about this, even like Brahmana or whatever. Our duty as a Vaishnava is to serve in whatever capacity is asked of us. If that means today I'm a Shudra, tomorrow I have to be a manager, the next day I have to be a Vaishya and sell cookies at the temple and all of these different, so it's really just about the devotional service, whatever is asked. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just thinking, Prabhupada, I mean, of course, as one thought is, as you said, that we have to do whatever we have to do, right? We got a service, we have to do that. But this becoming a Brahmana, I don't remember all the qualities of Brahmana because I'm not one, but the cleanliness is what I always remember, okay? Cleanliness, tolerance, and, forgiving others, etc., are the qualities of Brahmana. So we have to, it's not that we have to artificially become one, but we have to also be conscious, right? Like we are eating, and we have to also be conscious, am I overeating? It's a simultaneous, it is an organic process. It's happening together. That is what it says, like, that this is a purificatory process. It is not like other process where you have to be pure and then you can start the process, the main process. It's not like that. You keep doing it. And this is again Canto 3, where Prabhupada is saying, in the beginning we use the mind to be absorbed in the names of Krishna. And eventually, the mind goes out of the story because the mind is so absorbed. Even if you want the mind to think something else, and that is Mahabhagavat and the topmost level of the devotees, where mind itself is absorbed. Like if you are a boy, girl, they're in love. You need not think, you need not tell the mind, oh, think of that boy or think of that girl. The mind is automatically doing it. And that's where we need to reach. But so our senses are helping us to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness. But eventually our senses will be consumed, and the example is given in Bhagavatam is that as if sticks, right, fire, the wood sticks, it helps to ignite the fire, and eventually the fire consumes the sticks, isn't it? Similarly, our senses helps us to become Krishna consciousness, and the Krishna consciousness eventually consume our senses or mind in such a way that we will not remain us anymore. And that's the stage where we'll become Brahmana also, Vaishnava also. And that's when you become a guru. But we also have to be conscious. Like we might act in our Rajagun, in my Rajagun. If I don't like, I just say it out. And then we also have to sit and contemplate. That was it a right act? Did I behave as a Brahmana? Did I do titiksha, karunika, suridam? Did I do all that? Did I show tolerance? Did I do what a Brahmana is supposed to do? What a pure devotee is? We are not pure devotee yet, but we are on the path. So we have to be conscious. At the same time, do our things. It's like I was hearing Haldar Maharaj. I keep hearing him and I keep mentioning him. He was saying we are karma yogis, and that's what Bhajananandi and Goshtanandi was coming from. We are karma yogis. If we act to be jnanis or yogis, we will miserably fail. And at the same time, we have to be under a spiritual master. We have to be under other Vaishnavas. So they can see us and they can tell us. And even if we are not able to do that managerial things successfully, but I'm sure there is a way to do it successfully. And for that, you need advice from somebody who is superior, whether spiritual master or someone else, who can guide you. Does it make sense? Yes. I don't know anything. I'm just sharing what I hear.
Thank you for class, Mataji. It was really nice to revisit many of these details and concepts. The point you made about Bhajan Anandi and Goshti Anandi just reminded me of, I think Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that the best Goshti Anandi is a Bhajan Anandi who preaches.
Yes, of course.
And even he himself in his personal life for 10 years, he was doing his personal bhajan, and then he went out to preach. So I think both should be hand in hand, like perform our deep sadhana and bhajan from where we get the strength and realizations and that enthusiasm to preach. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, when we are doing our bhajan, we have to do bhajan as a bhajananandi. But rest of the time we are Goshtanandis, right? So when we are reading, when we are chanting, we cannot think we are anyway preachers, so okay, it's okay, Hare Krishna, somehow finish it. No, we have to be sincere. But at the same time, what I hear, I'm hearing a lot now from Maharajas, that our bhajan will not take us to Krishna. It's our Guru Nishta, it's our Vaishnav Seva, what will take us back to Godhead. And this bhajan, I don't know it completely. I was trying to learn it, but this is Shuddha Bhakta Charana Renu Bhajananu Kula Vaishnava Seva Parama Siddhi Premalati Karamula. It says Shuddha Bhakta Charana Renu, that dust from the Shuddha Bhakta, the pure devotee. Is bhajana anukula, our bhajan, it's like based on that. Anukula is which is favorable for Krishna consciousness. So the dust of a pure devotee on our head is what our bhajan will make our bhajan perfect. And Vaishnava Sheva Parama Siddhi, you see Siddhi, like we are trying to get those Siddhis, not we, the Siddhas, but trying to get those Siddhi, 8 Siddhis, you become the bigger than the biggest, smaller than the smallest, heavier than the heaviest, and lighter than the lightest, etc. But Param Siddhi is prema. So Vaishnava Seva is the Param Siddhi that will give you the Prema Latika Mula, means the Mula is the root of Prema Latika, that the love of Godhead, that the Madhurya Ras that we are trying to taste, or any ras for that matter. We are into that mood, so of course I mentioned that. That mool, that root of that is Vaishnava Seva. This is Bhakti Vinod Thakur from Sharanagati. So our ultimate shelter is Vaishnava Seva and the lotus feet of our spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Parampara. Our bhajan, we have to do it because we have committed to our Guru Maharaj that I will chant 16 rounds right in front of the deities, in front of the fire. So that's a commitment that we have taken, like when we get married, right? So that is our vow. We have to keep with utmost sincerity, with trying to avoid all the offenses, etc. But we should not be so confident that my bhajan will take me back. Take me back is Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. That's the only. Well, we try not to offend anybody. But this bhakti is very, very, forgiving. Whatever we do, we have to do bhakti. That's the only way. This is what my understanding, bro. I'm just saying things.
That was wonderful things, Mataji. Very wonderful class. So Mataji, you mentioned that whether we are Bhajananandi or Goshtanandi, that is something that our Guru will tell us what our position is. So, like even for being a Goshtanandi, do we need explicit permission for somebody, for example, to tell us that, okay, you should go preach, or is it just assumed that we are in this movement, so everyone should be preaching?
Yeah, that's two sides of it, right? So one side is we are into the movement of Srila Prabhupada Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a preaching movement. We don't have option. That's what Bijay Prabhu was also saying, that we don't have option. Prabhupada says, even if you're preaching your mother, your sister, anybody in the family also, that is also preaching. If you cannot go out and preach, that is also preach, but preach. Preaching is essence, right? Preaching is the essence. At the same time, what I like to do is, I also, whether my Maharaj may not explicitly say, okay, Anuradha, go and preach, not necessarily. But I also tell him what I do, whether he approves, because if I'm doing something that he doesn't like me to do, then he will stop me. And if he's okay, he may not reply. So I always like to, that's what I personally do, whomever I consider to be my superior, and of course my Guru Maharaj, I will always let them know that what I am doing. And if they think it is not something I should be doing, they will tell me. But in this movement, we all have to preach. Kiva nashi, kiva bipro, shudro ke benoy.
Mahaprabhu gave instruction to all his followers. Jara dekho tara kaho Krishna upadesh, mora agyaya guru. Yeah.
Tare karo desh.
Everybody should become a guru.
Jai Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's breakfast time. I'm here if you have anything to say. But you must be hungry. Thank you for your association. Chaitanya Charitamrita ki. I don't want to know. I don't want to touch that.
After I put the mic close properly.
I could hear myself. I'm usually literally.
And the thing is, you have to find it like this.
It was like that. I took it off.
Because this is
They can hear us.
this is what
Now
holds
they
this.
can hear.